I want to introduce you my new friend. Her name is Winnie Chung. Now, Winnie Chung is an international and intercultural educator and a long-standing supporter of the Vancouver Asian Heritage Month Society. As a current board member, she has assumed the role of interim executive director to help the board reinvent the organization and reach out to youth and municipalities beyond the city of Vancouver. Everyone, I give you Winnie Chung.
Well, thank you. You have to stand next to me.
I have to stand next to you?
The microphone.
Oh, yes.
Hi,
Winnie's
Canada.
we only have one microphone between us, so Winnie's going to speak into my cleavage. So, but she doesn't mind, and I definitely don't mind. So go ahead, Winnie.
Hi, Canada. It's really my honor. You're blocking me.
I'm making the moves on you, Winnie. Okay.
It is really our great pleasure to bring to you a fabulous program that is going to follow. I didn't know what's going to happen. When I asked Ray, he said, "Oh, Winnie, I'm a poet, and are you prepared for surprises?" I said, "Great." He reminds me I have to operate more from my right brain from that side. And this is perfectly okay because I've seen him before. I have watched him. He has done a lot of excellent work reaching out to the community. He doesn't function only within the ivory tower. And I'm very proud that he is one of our own local products now, even though he was educated originally in Toronto. So thank you to Toronto. We have Ray here, and we're going to keep him here for a long time. But he is going to be our Canadian idol very soon after this performance. Now, he is one of my favorite colleagues in UBC, but he's also a very, very popular poet, an award-winning poet, and also a very popular prof here. And so without keeping you longer here, I'm going to give you Ray and his student, Ling Kaye. Thank you.
All right.
First off, by way of introduction, I had the honor of teaching the very first Asian Canadian creative writing class in the country. And I worked with Anna, I worked with Cara, and I also worked with Tetsuro. Now, one of the things that you may have seen is a video in which all of us are breaking out our 80s rock outfits, and we're singing along to the 80s hit single, "We Are the World." That was the brainchild of Tetsuro, or Shigi TV, as his creative writing thesis is called, and which is also a hit channel on YouTube. And so check out We Are the World, which is a response to the Maclean's Magazine 2 Asian article. And it rocks. Believe me, I was Michael Jackson in it. So, first off, there's no better proof of how awesome the students are and how much fun the class was than the proof that's in the pudding. So, first off, let's have a big hand for Cara Kauhane.
Folding gyoza. You fill the silver bowl with all the inside things: meat, onions, cabbage, ginger, garlic. Your mother shows me how to fold. Half over in one palm, top layer pleats on the still, flat bottom, not too much filling. She turns back and scolds you. Your cabbage is not fine enough. Hers are the wisps of pale green, the ghosts of cabbage, thoughts of cabbage. I cannot be trusted with the knife or the cabbage. Only the brush of finger under and thumb over, light flour and slip soft wrapper. Your voice I know well, low, a hint of grit, the color of maple. It makes me feel too warm and embarrassed in your mother's kitchen. I'm learning your mother's pitch, which is pragmatic and smooth like an egg, but not her meaning. She questions and you reply, a stream of surprise swells and short stops. It makes me lick the roof of my mouth, makes me too aware of the air between my lips. Waiting for me on the table, I have your sounds on paper for practice, and although I am only on the symbol for ah, it is a favor to me to draw rows on rows of that little T, the lopsided fish. Something to do. A look of preoccupation and pencil marks, ah, 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 down the page.
Awesome. Thank you, Cara.
Thank you, Ray.
So next up, please give it up for Anna Ling Kaye.
Thank you all for having us. And one thing that we talked a lot about in our class was what are we supposed to read when we're asked to read, and what does it mean to be Asian or Canadian or a writer? And it's always this huge conflict. I'm not fully Chinese either. I'm half Taiwanese and half Caucasian. And my writing spans from all these different parts of my heritage, and I never know what to read. But today I decided to just read with what I'm working on lately, which is a short story called Second Nature. We have this interesting phenomenon in Vancouver, and maybe this is why we are always on our toes and we have so many questions, but the crows attack our heads. Does this happen in Montreal and Calgary? Crows will randomly swoop down around this time, nesting season, and grab people on the back of their heads, and everyone gets very upset and everyone reacts very differently. So my story is about Jeremy Chang, a Chinese immigrant who's lived in Vancouver for the last few decades, and his reaction to one of these swooping territorial crows, which has brought back some memories of his childhood during the Great Leap Forward in China, when he participated in the Sparrow Wars, which was when they basically killed a couple million sparrows because they thought they were eating the grain. So these scenes are towards the end of the story. A character comes up who he's having an affair with. Oh my God. Second Nature. Victory is in the air. It smells of bird shit and dust. Teacher Fang's voice chokes with emotion when he reads out the count. 50,000 sparrow bodies from one day of work. The shriveled corpses line the square, small and pathetic. Many have been roasted and eaten. Radio Peking reported the capital itself had brought down 300,000 birds. Their little village has achieved not much less than that. Comrades, we have an exemplary hero from yesterday, he says. Ling Kaye, stand forward. Hearing his brother's name on the loudspeakers gives Ming a startle. Confident and smiling, his brother Kai walks to the front of the crowd. Teacher Fang holds up his hand. Combining brains with bravery, this youth sneaked around by day to find our enemy's nesting trees. In the cover of night, braving thorn and heat, he climbed the trees and strangled clans of sparrows with these bare hands. This boy, Ling Kaye, though no more than 16 years old, single-handedly brought down the sparrow count by, Fang pauses, 563 birds in one night. If Ming hadn't counted each corpse himself, it would have been hard to believe. But Kai had stumbled into the house with the last bulging sack that morning and collapsed. The counting had been left to the younger, rested brother. This lesser task was more than acceptable to Ming. He claps with the other students, proud of his brave brother. So the hairs on Ming's arm rise when Teacher Fang utters his name. Jiang Wenming, stand forward. Confusion arrests him. Perhaps he heard incorrectly. The ranks of student faces turn towards him, and the attention is terrifying. Jiang Wenming, commands Teacher Fang. Curious eyes press on Ming, propelling him forward. His feet have an immense heaviness. It is like walking through knee-high paddy mud. To keep himself moving, Ming focuses on Kai's confident face next to the teacher. At the front of the square, he hesitates in front of Teacher Fang, and this is when the man cuffs him on the ear, sending Ming sprawling. Clay clogs his mouth and face. Teacher Fang is screaming. Where one Zhang is a hero, the other is a traitor. Where one vanquishes the enemy, the other betrays us by liberating it. Ming hears himself crying. I am innocent. I love my country. He is shouting through his hands, which are covering his face. Someone kicks him in the stomach. A familiar voice pierces through his protests. And this is Ming's companion when he went on the hunt. Tiger-eyed Lele's, shrill. He had a bit of a crush on her. Jiang Wenming set our enemies free. Watching her pretty face contort to pronounce the words, it is as if a boulder rolls over Ming's heart. I saw him free a sparrow into the air. Now we cut forward. The scene goes between scenes between Vancouver and China, so we're back in Vancouver. The next morning, Jeremy walks out his door, and the crow wheels above him. It lets out a warning caw, but perhaps not recognizing him, does not attack. Mary Lee laughs at the sunglasses and fedora. What are you, Michael Jackson? He tells her the story of yesterday's attack, and she laughs even more. In the background, a barking crow. Did you hear that? Asks Jeremy. Mary Lee shakes her head and covers her mouth, hiding a smile. Even when Jeremy points out the black heart-shaped body in the tree above her car, she doesn't lose the smirking grin. Do you see it or not? He asks. Yes, she says, a bird, which is not attacking you. Her voice softens. She puts her hand on his. Motel or house sit, Billie Jean? Jeremy opts for neither, just a drive-through breakfast. In the parking lot, a crow scuttles across the asphalt to the hedge, beady eyes fixed on their car. Jeremy doesn't point it out. He unwraps his flimsy egg muffin in silence. Chews. Of course, Mary Lee wants to talk about her love nest. It could double as her painting studio, she says, and he'd always know where to find her. When Jeremy is silent, she asks the familiar question, why are we together anyway, JC? The crow is watching Jeremy, seeing if he dares speak the truth. Because I can't figure out how to give you up? Because I'm old and rich and bored? Jeremy swallows the salty wad in his mouth and takes another bite. Because my wife hasn't liked to be touched since our 4th daughter was born? Later, he tucks a roll of hundreds into the dashboard. For your art supplies, he says. He gets out of the Jetta to walk home. Back to China. The brothers depart their village by night. You protect each other, Mother says, pressing a small cloth sack of dried fish, peanuts, and rice in their hands. They have left on the pretense of a relative's wedding in Guangzhou, but Mother stresses that it is unsafe for them to come home. The amnesty granted by Kai's heroism is fleeting. She leads them to the water's edge and points along the dark shoreline. Her parting words are, take care of each other. During the weeks of their escape to Hong Kong, the boys sleep by day and swim by night. Kai is a cruel taskmaster, forcing Ming to swim beyond exhaustion until the first glimmer of dawn. But Kai is kindness too, rubbing Ming's numb limbs after those long, cold swims. Kai coaches Ming on how to scavenge food and, when they dare, wood for a warm fire. One moonless night, just before they reach British territory, Ming spreads his arms wide in the water, making the broadest strokes yet. He imagines himself flying through the waters, swift and powerful and soon out of sight. Jeremy waits until there are no more footsteps in his marble-inlaid lobby. He shuts himself into his silken wallpapered office, sits at his mahogany desk. After everyone's left, Jeremy calls his brother Wen Kai in Hong Kong. How is business, asks Kai. It is comforting to shift into their village dialect. Could be better. Pine beetles are destroying our timber supply. Happy people are moving along the seawall 29 floors below Jeremy's office window, bathed in setting sunlight. Cyclists, rollerbladers, tourists. How's the new shopping center doing? The tourists from China are incredible, Kai says. They're hungry like your pine beetles. Put a price tag on something, they'll buy it. Well, maybe they'll buy my beetlewood. Why not? Someone should. I'll make some calls to Shanghai. An incredible time to be in business, isn't it, brother? The people on the seawall are walking in groups and pairs. Few are alone. Jeremy wonders of all these people in Vancouver, why has the crow attacked him? Ming, I'm pretty busy. Kai sounds irritated by Jeremy's silence. Did you want to talk about anything specific? No, a call to say hello. We'll come back soon. It's time we paid Mother's grave a visit. Of course. Black ribbons of crows weave over Stanley Park, their wings stitching together a darkening sky. Someone once told Jeremy the birds gather by the thousands in a massive grove outside Langley. But there is one, Jeremy knows, maybe more, hunched outside his house, waiting. Eventually, he will not be able to put off going home any longer. He will nose his Mercedes into the garage, hit a button to seal out the night. Thank you.
So, one of the things that I mentioned was really exciting about working with all my students was, for one thing, they bring all sorts of expertise to the table. Did I mention that? They bring all sorts of expertise to the table. Many of them are non-writers, and many of them have different body types. Not everyone looks like me, which I think is really useful in terms of alliance building, in terms of being able to say, what exactly counts as Asian Canadian writing. So, Cara read poetry, and Anna read fiction. One of the things that I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a brief piece, which is a collaboration that was a comic book, a non-fiction comic book, between graphic artist Chloe Chan and I. So this is called Futures of the Past by Chloe Chan and Ray Su. I should mention that my mom is from Malaysia. part of the Chinese population in Malaysia, and my dad left mainland China and lived in South Africa under apartheid before they met in Canada. And this is about that journey. There were whites all over the train. My father got on. He walked through carriages, glancing at the other passengers. There was a seat at the far end. He was wearing sandals, light pants, and a t-shirt stained by cleaning out the refrigerators the night before. It was one of the slow trains. A few windows were open. They needed fresh air, and the noise was easier to take when the train passed through the open areas. A few would disembark. There would be sunlight most of the way before they arrived at the city. The conductor leaned back in from the window. Noticing my father at the other end, he strode up the aisle. He looked at him for a moment. "You're not supposed to sit here," he said. No malice, simply fact. My father stopped looking out the window. He sat up and reached into his pocket. The conductor said nothing and watched. My father pulled out a letter. The conductor took the letter, which was from the Chinese government, the government gazette. He handed the letter back and turned back down the aisle. A young man with an unlit cigarette nudged his friend, and they followed the conductor to the other end of the carriage. An older woman stood up and stood by the door. The seats were empty around my father, the first and last time he ever rode on a train. He watched silently as the Chinese ghettos of the group area changed the flat vista to the buildings of Johannesburg. I was working for 30 rands a month. Rands were equivalent to $2 US. I was working for 30 rands a month, so I was earning $60 a month working for somebody. Compared to whites, it wasn't much money, but compared to blacks, it was a lot of money. You can rent a house for 30 rands. No one would rent a big house for himself. I worked long days and saved as much as possible. I sent it home to my brother and sister so they could afford to go to private school. They went to a Catholic-run private school where they studied with whites. Chinese could go as long as they could pay the fees. Blacks couldn't enter the school even if they had money to pay. I couldn't get a good education because I couldn't go to the white schools unless I paid large sums of money, which my parents couldn't afford to, and I couldn't go to black schools because I'm Chinese. Because my father was earning very little money and couldn't afford me to send me to private school, so I had to start working at age 14 for somebody outside in Etondale, about 45 minutes drive from Johannesburg. I ran a corner convenience store. First, I worked with no salary because I couldn't speak English. But there's only one condition they offered me, is a tutor to learn English paid by the employer. But other than that, I might have a few dollars pocket money to buy clothes and so on. After that, I start learning English and learning Afrikaans, which is the official language, and some of the native language. Most of the customers are Bantus. I'm able to speak Zulu, Sesotho, 3 or 4 different types of languages. After a year or so, when I know how to speak, how to serve the customers, they started paying me a little money, but not much still. The government wouldn't give us the permit, so they forced many of us to go underground. This time, I realize, my father only tells me part of the story. He leaves the details out. He knows that I'm writing this down. So thanks a lot. Thank you. One of the things that I found is a real honor and a joy is to be able to work with so many different kinds of writers and so many different kinds of artists and so many different kinds of organizers. And I think that creative writing, and when I say creative writing, I put it in quotation marks, has a real stake in Asian Canadian studies, in higher education. And I think that to think about Asian Canadian studies, and this goes back to what you were saying actually about public sentiment. I thought that that was a really interesting point. That's one of the things that creative writing most has a stake in, and I think Asian Canadian studies should have a stake in too. So thanks so much for having creative writing as part of this event. Thanks so much.
Okay.
One of the rewards of getting involved in Vancouver Asian Heritage Month Society is that we always have chances of meeting people who are so inspiring. And one of the people that I'm going to introduce to you today is Joyce Lam. I only met her this year, but I know about her work a long time. And she brought the flower drum song to Vancouver a couple of years ago as part of the exploration. In the back, I want everybody to see that banner, our beautiful banner for the festival. So this is our 15th year doing exploration, and this year I started 2011 in a very special way. On January 1st, I rounded up about a dozen friends, and we all went to see Red Letters. Can you see this? Red Letters. And this is a very, very, very good show. And this is Joyce's team's work in translating a concept and reaching out to the community through the theater. Joyce Lam is the founder of the Vancouver Asian Canadian Theatre some 15 years ago. And she has been the artistic producer all these years. They've done some great work, and she's going to tell you more herself.
The Vancouver Asian Canadian Theatre developed the original musical Red Letters, a story about a young Chinese couple immigrating to Canada in the 1920s. And everyone asked us, why do we want to do this? And I thought it was very obvious because its theme, the Chinese head tax, was such a significant historical event that all Canadians should know about. So Alan Bao, who resides in Toronto, we have CDs on sale too. Alan Bao, who resides in Toronto, created this idea, and he composed the music and lyrics. And we brought in Kathleen Leung, who is in Vancouver, as the book writer. And in developing the story, we felt that it needed to be about the characters and the hardships they endured during the head tax era, and rather than just about the factual information, and that the historical events were addressed to move the story forward. Alan Bao says he wrote the musical because through music, history can be felt, remembered, and learned. I will be showing various clips from our show and speaking on their significance in the play. So we're going to start with clip 1.
This apology is not about liability today. It is about reconciliation with those who endured such hardship and the broader Chinese-Canadian community, one that continues to make such an invaluable contribution to this great country. And while Canadian courts have ruled that the head tax and immigration prohibition were legally authorized at the time, we fully accept the moral responsibility to acknowledge...
Now, Kathy Leung begins to play in 2006 with Ping, that character, a Chinese immigrant who is now 84, and he's reacting to Stephen Harper's apology to the Chinese Canadians who had actually paid the head tax, for those who don't know about the 2006 apology. And to make it real, the actual apology that you just heard was played to the audience. She then has Ping's story take us back to 1921 when his father, Shen, is immigrating to Vancouver. And here's another clip.
Would Father have accepted this apology? Would he want me to ever forget? Should I let my son know what really happened? Year 48 from Guangdong arrived by freight. Young with might, chasing dreams, my future shone bright. Dreams came true, built a home, had a son too. Now I'm a grandpa, but my life is not complete. Should be content looking back how my years went, but I cry with these letters asking why. My father's dreams were shattered, his life so battered. Can't help but ask, why did fate grant me a better life? Help me see, help me feel, help me learn how you lived, how you suffered. Will I know my father from his letters?
To make the audience care about Shen and Mei, and Shen is the father to Ping, the young Chinese couple, we need to believe in their commitment to each other and how much they want a better life and a better world together. This is also an example of how true events such as the drought in China caused the characters to react.
We'll start a new life. Buy land, build a house, have lots of children. Over there you would never go hungry, and people there would appreciate my talents.
Well, when would we leave? Your mother will be planning the ceremony right away.
The next boat leaves at quarter moon. But, Nay, please understand, I can't take you with me now. I need to work and save up for your passage and entry. Father says it'll be years before I earn enough, and I'm already indebted to the village.
Shen, I understand. I know you'll do your best. For us?
I'll find a way to bring you over in a year. How hard can it be? They don't call it gold bound for nothing.
So once in Canada, when Shen arrives, we meet Shen's boss at the laundry shop in Chinatown. Boss's friend Su Wong, through his character as a social activist, is able to express the facts about the head tax and the Canadian laws at the time. Note that the set uses actual images of Vancouver Chinatown's buildings in the 1920s and an actual laundry wrapping device to create authenticity. Clip, please.
Have you heard? The provincial government wants to raise your laundry license again. I told you they're trying to drive you out of business.
See, Wong, every day you come in here with bad news, and most of it is not true.
Last week I said the police were planning on shutting down the Chinese-Canadian Labour Association's meeting room down on Painter Street. And today, they found locks on their front door.
They're always trying to fight the government about something. What do they expect? To succeed in Chinatown, you must keep your head low and obey the law. Then you won't attract so much trouble.
Well, I told them they could meet here.
Now you're the one trying to drive me out of business. See, Wong, does it look like I have space?
Now, back in China, Mei is waiting to come over for Shen to save enough money for the head tax. Unfortunately, her health is deteriorating and her dreams begin to fade to join him. And through her song, we see, hear, and feel her emotional pain about being separated from her husband.
My hands, they shake as I start this letter. Is this a mistake to worry him so? Can't carry on writing to him. His hopes will be gone if he shares my pain. For I know, though a million miles away, he needs me. I must pretend that nothing in me is wrong. I will forsake my wish, our dream will never yield. Alone I shiver, alone I cry. I'll find the strength to go on my own. Even if I falter, even if I die, I still choose this road to suffer alone. For I know there is so much more that's planned for me. I will live to hold him next to me again. I must be strong to live my lasting dream.
The story also deals with the common situation of the bachelors in Chinatown and how lonely they were, unable to bring their wives over or meet potential wives. Clip, please.
I'm just thinking about Shen. He has a wife and baby. But if you can't bring them over here, I'm afraid he'll grow old and lonely like us bachelors.
I'm thinking of my grandfather, building the railroad, and his life.
Lovers pass me by afloat in the sky.
Stop staring at them.
They're drawn to a special place as they embrace.
You're scaring them.
There with a kiss in a world of bliss, immersed in their romance as they start their starlit dance.
I realized.
Winter marked a year, I shed a tear.
Sentimental you.
Another season's gone, I carried on.
What else would you do?
In summer, how I craved my paltry life be saved. Is there a companion to a lonely me? Autumn seems just like me, fallen leaves like fallen dreams, waving in the wind so aimlessly. Autumn, you torment me so, autumn, I don't want to know. My emptiness is like these barren trees. 17, I was sent here, life so
You still remember that?
I left a girl behind, she's on my mind.
I used to have someone.
We parted teary-eyed, she was meant to be my bride. At that moment, goodbye was my only joy.
Who would marry you?
Autumn seems just like me, fallen leaves like fallen dreams, waving in the wind so aimlessly. Autumn, you torment me so, autumn, I don't want to know. My emptiness is like these barren trees.
The story also reveals the underground gambling for the bachelors. But please.
There's a place on earth that could even come close. This is grandiose. 'Tis the night the bachelors come to redeem. Cash bar comes some dream. Yes, this is my lucky night at Manhattan. All my shoulder losing's not in my plan. I still need to score. Shit, and I look full. I might have to sell my store. 'Cause we are real bachelors in Chinatown. With our hope and there's no sign. With a frown. When we're here, we forget our crappy lives for a while. We savor the moment with a winner's smile.
Now, widespread Canadian sentiment is embodied by the character of Joseph, who fears that the Chinese are taking away his jobs and causing his unemployment. Our first clip shows Joseph is being fired, and the second clip talks about his resentment.
Hey Joseph, I have to talk to you. Bad news, this round is finished and the next is smaller than expected. There won't be any extra work. Sorry, this is the last shift.
No, I just started. I just told you it was temporary. We're all let go. And you tell that guy.
He's staying. He resigned before you and he's a lot cheaper.
Come on! It's not fair. You know I should be working, not him.
Nothing I can do. I even stuck my neck out to give you your shift because I knew you had a rough right now.
But I belong here. More than him, that's for damn sure. This is Canada.
Well, they're here despite the entry tax they pay. Government knows what you're saying. They keep raising it. These guys keep coming anyway. They're here and I gotta do what I gotta do. Clean yourself up and figure something out.
I sense the men are hiding their dough. It's in their voice. I know it's so. $500 is what it takes. They keep coming. My heart breaks. Young guy's got a wife. So do I. I need his cash more. Starving is hard to ignore. This encounter is a sign. Starts tonight a line. Maybe I'll take what is mine. I have a plan. I'll be a spy. When they are gone, I'll steal them dry. Those sneaky chinks stole my work. They're taking over with a smirk. It is unfair. I belong here. They should leave outright. This encounter is a sign. Stealing is not out of line. I just claim what is mine.
So Act 1 ends with the characters worried about their future because the Exclusion Act has just now come down.
Chapter 38, an act respecting Chinese immigration, assented to the 30th of June, 1923. His Majesty, vying with the advice and consent of the Senate and House of Commons of Canada, enacts as follows. This act may be cited as the Chinese Immigration Act. No man of Chinese origin or descent, unless he is a Canadian citizen, shall be permitted to enter or land in Canada, or having entered or landed in Canada, shall be permitted to remain therein. This was the darkest day. The Exclusion Act was passed, the door was shut to all Chinese. We weren't welcome in this land.
If we don't stand for what is right, there'll be nothing left for us, but will we win? If we fight, what's to believe?
Once I dared to believe my dream would come true, and this family would unite across the sea. What now is the future for my child? With his father he could take wing. The law can destroy everything.
Why this hatred towards us? How did we offend them? We worked as slaves and obeyed, never complained. I will never see my May again. Holding in my arms, this is not my Canada.
This is the darkest day. The Exclusion Act is passed. The door is shut to all Chinese. We're not welcome in this land. If we don't stand for what is right, there'll be nothing left for us, but will we win? If we fight, what's to believe? How can my country be so unfair, increasing the head tax we could bear? But the Exclusion Act ends all hope for us. How much more can we Chinese endure?
This is no time to keep them up for good. Send them a strong message as we all should. This country depends on me. Yellow men must go, this is no charity. Keep our heads low.
Not used to fighting.
I claim was my Exclusion Act fast. I can get my job back at last.
To believe.
This is the darkest day.
The Exclusion Act is passed. The door is shut to all Chinese. We're not welcome in this land. If we don't stand for what is right, there'll be nothing left for us, but we may win. If we fight, what's to believe?
So we begin Act 2, and at this point, the audience is now bound to the story because the characters have all suffered huge sacrifices and have connected with how the actors have bonded to each other. Audience members have been heard sobbing and were feeling the impact of the Chinese head tax and how it tore families apart and how the 1923 Chinese Exclusion Act kept them apart. This story is tragic to allow people to vent their sadness while revealing their shame. But hope is portrayed in the final song in our final clip.
I embraced him in my life, a son to me, I answered chance plea.
I see the growth through all the years. We came a long, long way to where we are today.
I must learn from my troubled past. It's not too late to see the better father I will be.
Tomorrow is a better place. It's achieved because our hearts believe. We need to understand our past, shed the wrongs. We will all join again as one again someday. We will all join again as one.
Now, through diligence and after 24 years, the law was repealed in 1947, and the Chinese were allowed to enter Canada again. So Red Letters shows how a fictional story can enhance learning about history. By being entertaining, we hope that audiences will remember the story and be motivated to find out more about the history. When we asked the public to bring a copy of their family's head tax certificate for one free admission, the wall display of all the certificates collected at the show cemented the reality of it and how true it was for some audience members. Oh, we can't show the picture of the wall of head tax certificates. Okay, so by bringing a copy to the theater, people took them out of their drawers, trunks, and attics and started talking about it with their families, and it began the healing and education process. And that's what Red Letters is about. You can check out our website at www.vact.ca for more information, and we will be selling the CD online shortly if you really like the music. So thank you very much.